I first met Ruslana Zhesnowski many years ago, and I watched as she became inspired to launch Help Us Help the Children, which has changed so many young lives.
It started with the fact that 25 years ago, actually 26 years ago, I did adopt my fourth child. I had 3 of my own and adopted my 4th baby. And when we went through Ukraine, we realized in what a horrific situation all the orphanages were.
After my parents experienced the status of what an orphanage looked like when they came to do the whole adoption process, they were just baffled with how poor the quality of life of these children was.
So we started Help Us Help the Children as a humanitarian aid route 25 years ago. And we would do 3 or 4 routes every year. And we would try to cover at least 110 orphanages per route.
Not enough beds, not enough food, not enough educational materials, not enough toys, not enough clothes. It was just, there's a deficit all around, and it was horrifying.
And it didn't matter whether it was in Western Ukraine or Eastern Ukraine, in the South, in Crimea at that time, or in the North.
In the orphanages, there were a lot of high death rates happening in the early 90s as well. And it was just due to small things that could have been avoided, such as proper nutrition and or antibiotics, etc.
Every orphanage was desperate for supplies just to make daily living possible for children.
It was a smaller group of volunteers, my mom's friends and acquaintances and people she met along the way who were genuinely interested in helping these children.
The group included important sponsors within the Ukrainian community in Canada, as well as representatives from Kyiv.
Donations started pouring in Canada, clothing, baby formula. Quite a lot of pharmaceutical companies got involved to help with medicine.
Fast forward several years, Ruslana wanted to do something more for the orphans when she discovered that they had virtually nothing to do during the summer months, aside from sitting around in old Soviet-style camps with no programs or activities.
The idea came to, I guess, my mom and that group of wonderful volunteers in the early 90s to create wonderful summer camps where they could teach transferable life skills because they are lacking in life and social skills.
It's a program of where people learn to work in groups, team building efforts, and also prepping up a lot of these children for life after the orphanage.
Remember, help the children, they have so much to give. Children need their future, but have one life to live. Щоб виросли здорові, щасливими були, минуле не забули, країну зберегли.
So 1996 was the first camp, so I guess that this would have been our 21st camp, summer camp. And probably about 13 or 14 winter camps as well.
The workshops were implemented, these kids were exposed to structure and learning different trades and learning new material that potentially might interest them in their future careers. I mean, 2 weeks is a very short period of time, but when you plant a little seed and you give the proper reinforcement, the proper encouragement, and you find what is truly theirs, because we have such a variety of different workshops, maybe one thing won't work for you, but some other workshop will.
I'm also happy when I see them to come back and help. So they've learned that not only do you take, but you have to give back to the community, which is probably one of the most important things we can teach them in Ukraine.
It's so nice to look around and you see your counselors are your previous kids that came when they were little tiny, 8-year-olds, and now they're running workshops, they're taking on leadership roles, they're the next generation of guidance counselors.
Many of them will tell you that if it weren't for Help Us Help the Children, they probably would have been in jail, or they probably would have not taken the wrong path in life and landed up without a family, and the whole pattern of their children growing up in orphanages would have repeated.
And now they're teaching that the younger generation, who unfortunately are in the same situation, they let those kids know that it's okay. Look, I was in that situation. This is what helped me. This is what I took from this program. And here I am sharing what I know, my knowledge, so that you can be a better person, a better you.
Help Us Help the Children also offers a university scholarship program. The orphans receive a monthly stipend and attend job-finding seminars. None of this would happen without the Canadian and Ukrainian sponsors, the volunteers, and their children.
5, 6, 1, 2.
A lot of the Canadian diaspora who have come and visited this camp think it's probably one of the best camps where their children can learn, one, about Ukraine.
And for them, it's kind of like a win-win situation, because they've learned so much about Ukraine in Canada, and we're so blessed to have such a great community with Ukrainian schools and churches and scouts groups.
Ukraine is not an abstract anymore, it's concrete. These are real children. It's not something you read or see on YouTube or on a video. They're actually children that you can touch and hug and see them, change and evolve in 2 weeks. And I think that also changes the Canadian, Ukrainian kids that come here to help.
In the summer of 2018, Ruslana wanted to raise awareness of the plight of Ukrainian orphans and seek reforms to the draconian orphanage system. She and a handful of volunteers set out on a 650-kilometer trek from Kiev to Vorokta in the Carpathian Mountains. It took them 62 days.
It's hard every year. And every year you figure you're not going to have enough money raised, or who's going to give money this year. But you realize that at the end of it, you realize that there's a whole bunch of kids that have gotten so much positive out of these camps that you look back and you go, yeah, all that hard work was worth it.
If we had a bigger, let's say, army of volunteers and more resources to create more programs and opportunity, I think that's where we can expand. We can definitely take on more kids, maybe do more camps at a time.
We could take more kids on scholarships. We could do more widow sessions. We could do more PTSD sessions. God, there's such a need right now for all that. But it depends on how much we raise. Every time it's all about how much can we raise.
And the sponsors, it's an overwhelming feeling knowing that, there's these people in Canada who care. Let's say they can't necessarily come and visit our camp, but financially they can support us because they know how important it is to put this generation on their feet and make sure they're okay when they move forward and progress through their lives.
There's always a domino effect. You do one good thing, some people will pick up on those ideas and they will follow through with the same ideas in other parts, and that's how stuff spreads in the cleanup.